It's time for me to officially introduce our webinar today. My name is Charlie and I'm the Features Editor at Call Center Helper, and today we're going to be discussing the right ways to motivate staff to put in more effort. And today we have a couple of great speakers for you. We have Dan Morris from Moo. And Dan, could you tell us a bit about your role within Moo?
Sure. So I started at Moo 12 years ago, and I actually was the first ever contact center agent or customer service agent. So I answered Moo's first ever customer email and phone call and live chat. And I went on to build that team out to about 80 full-time employees, split between the US and the UK. But over the last 3 or 4 years, I've started to specialize more in voice of customer and voice of employee, and generally trying to make Moo a more customer-centric organization. So I don't actually sit in the contact center organization anymore, but very much fighting a fight with them, I guess, internally to win over the rest of the business, to understand how important the customer is, and then championing improvements on the behalf of customer in every single touch point that I can possibly get my hands on, basically.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Dan. And we also have Tamsin Dolan from Nice in Contact. Could you also tell us a bit about your role, Tamsin?
Absolutely, yes. So I've been working with Nice in Contact for the past 9 years, working in the contact center industry, working really closely with contact center teams as a trainer and in professional services consulting to help them optimize their operations. So that's mainly been my focus, really working on the front lines with those frontline agents and training them for optimization in their operation.
Excellent.
And I should mention that that Ring Central is a partner of Nice in Contact. We're a proud partner of Ring Central, and that Ring Central Contact Center is powered by Nice in Contact CX1, and that's our world's #1 cloud customer experience platform. So that's the connection here with Ring Central. So we're proud to be here for you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tamsin. We also have, just later today, just for future reference, if you pick up any great insight from today's webinar, you can watch the replay and slides by following www.callcenterhelper.com/recorded-webinars. So if you miss any information or want to backtrack through today's great presentations, please follow that link this afternoon. And also, we already have a very lively discussion in our chat room. And just to reiterate how you can join the conversation, go to www.callcenterhelper.com/chat. And as the chat room is in a separate window to the webinar, you can put the webinar on one screen and the chat in the other, and then you can take part in both, which is great. And as an additional bonus of being in the chat room, you can also download the slides and download the chat log, which again would be great if you want to refer back to the webinar at a later stage. And also, the best tip or questions that we're looking out for in today's webinar, which you can add in the chat room, will win a bottle of champagne or a box of chocolate. And here is the lovely bottle of champagne, which you could possibly win. Presentation there. Yeah, so please put your tips and questions to us, and we will ask our presenters to help answer those questions after the end of their presentations. So what we're asking, so we're going to have a poll now, and what we're asking is, what percentage of your agents eventually move into other jobs within your business? 0 to 9%, 10 to 24%, 25 to 49%, or 50%? And I will just launch that poll for everybody now. So what are you expecting to see here, Dan?
I wouldn't be surprised if we see 0 to 9. I'm hoping optimistically that maybe 10 to 24%.
Would you expect the same thing, Tamsin?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. Excellent. Just the final votes are coming through before I close the poll, and I'll share the results with everyone.
Woohoo!
And yes,
Should have placed a bet.
So what do you think the great bonus is in having staff to move to other parts of your business, Dan?
I mean, I think it's twofold really. The first is that you'll engage your current staff in the contact center better because they'll see that there's opportunity to move into other areas. And I think for those people that run the contact center, having disciples kind of dispersed in other business functions really helps to shine a light on the role of the customer service team and how important customers are.
Excellent. And I think
Absolutely.
that fits in nicely with your presentation, which we can just move to next. So I'll pass the baton over.
Thank you.
There you go. Excellent.
Awesome. Okay, so thanks for joining today. As you've all heard, my name's Dan. I'm the Director of Customer Experience at Moo. And as I said before, I was the first customer service agent at Moo. And I'm really happy to say that on my paycheck, I have the awesomely cool employee number 007. So I'm kind of like both a CS agent of the past and a secret agent on behalf of our customers. And really, when I think about how contact center staff may appear sometimes, this is the slovenly cat kind of just sitting at their control panel. And you know what we really want to do today is work out some tips and tricks of how we can get them more to this, more motivated, probably not dancing around, but hopefully motivated nonetheless. And I really think, you know, there's no, before I go into all of these different examples, I think there's no hard and fast way. And I think different people are motivated by very different things. And the things I'm going to go through are just some things that we've employed at Moo to not only just in the contact center, but hopefully just engage employees in general to, you know, to feel happy and loved by the organization and therefore wanting to put an effort to help the organization to succeed. And I think the first and foremost, the most important thing is to make sure that you're hiring the right people. I really strongly believe that if you've got the wrong people in the door, or sitting in front of your customers or at the console, then you're doomed to fail. You know, making sure that you're hiring the people that have the right skills and experience is obviously important, but also making sure to set realistic expectations. One of the biggest demotivators can be setting incorrect expectations when people start. If you promise them the moon and then they're not going to get it, then it's unlikely that they're going to feel engaged and motivated. And I think it's quite common actually in contact centers that people are hired on this, on the potential of getting a foot in the door, particularly in kind of big cities. Moo's based in London, and often in the old days when people came to work in the customer service team, they just wanted to work at a cool company like Moo and maybe had desires to work in other departments. And even though we did our best to try and get people into those departments, you know, it's not always possible to get everyone. So making sure that people know they're going to do a certain amount of time in the contact center before they have those opportunities, and making sure that they understand what their role is going to be before they start is really important. And we have an old saying at Moo, and I apologize for slightly blue language. For those who don't like it, you can cover your ears, but we have a saying at Moo, which is it's better to have a hole in your team than an a-hole. And I think we also try to stick by the rule of hire slow, fire fast. So, you know, make sure that you're hiring the right person. Don't just put that bum on the seat because you've got an open rec. Once you've hired those people, you know, there's lots of different things you can do to try and make sure that they're engaged and motivated. And I think, you know, you can't really expect people to do more or do better unless you help them. Sometimes people need coaching and training and development in order to do more or to do better. People have very different needs, and I think, you know, making sure to understand the individual and thinking about what's important to them in terms of their development will help you to understand what coaching and training they might need. And I think, you know, tying it in with performance management helps to shine a light perhaps on their productivity or their quality, and understanding, like I said, for each individual, what are the important things for them to focus on and to develop. Lots of people join Moo and they're always surprised by the fact that we do a weekly one-on-one with our agents. You see people joining who maybe have a monthly one-on-one in their old job, or in some, you know, worst case scenario, never having had a one-to-one with their boss, which quite frankly is a little frightening. And I think, you know, making sure that those one-to-ones are not always just looking at numbers, but are actually devoted to focusing on development and coaching and understanding what that contact center employee really needs. And we're fortunate at Moo that we've managed to carve out a training budget at Moo. So every single employee has a certain amount of budget set aside for their training. And some of that is in-house training, where we will run specific workshops where we bring people in to run them. But also, if there are opportunities outside of Move for someone to go and do a workshop or to go to a conference to develop some of those skills or knowledge, we'll happily kind of send them away to go and do that on Move's dime. The training and development, you know, in some ways is about increasing the potential or helping people to realize their potential. And it's one part of this next piece, which is around career paths. And like I said before, customer service can be a stopgap or a foot in the door for a lot of people. People don't always see their future as a CS agent or in the contact center at all. So I think providing the right framework, you know, a model that can really help people to understand where they are in their career, what capabilities they've acquired in their current role, and what capabilities are shared by other career paths within the organization or elsewhere, can really help to motivate employees to see where their next steps on their career might be. We actually do a lot of secondments at Move, so we try and make sure that there's the possibility for someone to spend time in another part of the organization so that they can understand what is encompassed in other roles in other departments, to see if it's the right fit for them. And we've recently, took a long time, so we're 12 years old and we've really only implemented this properly in the last year, implemented a new career experiences initiative, which really helps people to understand, like I said, their current path, the capabilities, and what next steps might help them to unlock career progression or development. And that doesn't always necessarily mean we're not every progression is a promotion. You know, I think it's about, even in your current role, how can we develop each individual employee to take on more responsibilities and learn more capabilities and skills. Empowerment and trust really sits at the center of at Move, particularly in the contact center, because I think in the old days, you know, you would hire people who were capable of talking on the phone and reading a script, and that was kind of it. You had really strict rules and would just put people to sit there and use the rubric to do their job. And I think those times, hopefully, in most contact centers are behind us. But I think if your team doesn't feel trusted and empowered to do their job, then they're certainly not going to feel motivated. And empowering your agents to do the right thing and not mandating how to deal with every single interaction by rote is really important. And if you have contact center agents that you don't trust, or where they perceive a lack of trust, that's going to really quickly erode employee motivation. And if you can't trust them, to be perfectly honest, I don't think they should really be working for you. You need to have people that you trust, and then empower them with the right tools and the right opportunities. And at Moo, we've never had scripts. We have some kind of overarching guidelines and a kind of like a value system or some commandments that help to guide what we want the resolution for our customers to be, which is in a very simplistic way, is just make the customer happy. And then we arm our contact center agents with all of the tools necessary to deliver that happiness in whatever situation. And if you give people strict rules and tell them to do, you know, if X, do Y, more often than not, you're going to find that you're disappointing customers, and you'll find that your agents just feel like they can't be trusted. So I think that's really, really important. Next is around rewards and recognition. And I think gamifying the process and incentivizing people can certainly promote the right kind of behavior. So if, you know, we're talking about motivating our agents to put in more effort can have many ramifications. It could improve quality, it could improve productivity. And I think having a rewards program or a gamifying around, or incentivizing people around the behaviors that you want to elicit, whether it be productivity or quality, is super important. And again, I think using performance management tools can help you monitor what's important to your organization, and help to really clearly and transparently show why certain people are being rewarded. So at Moo, we've got very different levels on how people are rewarded or incentivized, and it's all tied very closely to quality and behavioral things. So quality in terms of what customers are rating the support that agent has provided at, and then behaviorally, how do their colleagues feel that they're behaving in the contact center? That's really hard to measure, and what we've adopted is a nomination scheme where agents can nominate their colleagues for particular behaviors that they've seen, and that's all really tightly tied into our make it values that we have at Moo. And we've got lots of different prizes that people can win. We've got something which is the Wheel of Wow. So if you're kind of at the bottom end of the reward scale, you get to spin a kind of Wheel of Fortune, which has different things like a free bottle of wine, an extra half an hour at lunch, or go home an hour early, those kinds of things, right up to win a week at one of our other offices paid for by Moo. So we now do that twice a year, and we've had agents from the US come to our UK headquarters, which is amazing for them. A lot of them have never actually left the US, and vice versa, UK team traveling to the US offices, which for them is really a really great prize. Next up is tools and systems, and I know Tamsin's going to talk to tools and systems in a bit more depth, but agents spend a huge amount of their time looking at the screen and often using very disjointed software applications. You know, maybe you've got your help desk, your phone software, an FAQ or internal wiki open, you've got a chat bar open so you can talk with your colleagues. It's very overwhelming and can be extremely demotivating. And I think everything that you can do within your power to reduce that pain for the agent is going to help motivate them mentally, but it's also going to make things faster for them, so their productivity should increase naturally. So removing pain points or processes with tons and tons of clicks. We used to use Software Solution X, which I will not name, but it took about 5 clicks to actually grab a template or a macro and send an email to the customer. And we migrated over to a new system where it was kind of 1 click and a keyboard shortcut to send an email, which made a massive difference. And something we've started doing over the last year and a half is to do journey mapping with the contact center to understand the back-end process and just how clunky and painful that can look from an agent perspective. And that's really helped us to understand which pain points we can remove from that and how to optimize the agent experience. So from something kind of hardcore and something a little more fluffy, fun and food and drink, oh my. We make a huge effort at Moo, and it does seem like sometimes can feel like a slightly superfluous thing, but having fun should be organized to a certain extent. So we have lots of games that are played in the office in the contact center, particularly during really high busy periods. So we have something called Buzzword Bingo. We have a Guess Who game where we've got avatars of all of the agents, and we play a Guess Who game. And all of that has rewards at the end of it. So some people might get an hour to go and play ping pong and an hour to go and play pool. Then also food. So we have a big ice cream fridge in all of our kitchens. So free ice creams on tap. We've got a really nice coffee shop, so we give people free coffee vouchers. And then also every Friday at Moo, there's free lunch for the entire company, where everyone descends in a rather haphazard fashion down to our kitchen to grab their Friday lunch, and everyone eats together communally, which is a really nice touch. And then finally, on the fun and food and drink, we also have kind of like a social events calendar for the contact center. So every month on a rotating schedule, 2 people in the contact center are given a budget and plan an organized fun activity for the team. And we've done things like escape the room, laser quests. Sometimes it's just going for food and drink, but try to make it as fun and as frequent as possible, and allow the agents to actually plan it for themselves rather than a supervisor or a manager kind of mandating what it is that we do. The last 2 here, so this is make a difference. So this is about giving back to the community or to the environment. People can be motivated by very different things, but I think almost everyone loves to feel like they're making a difference and giving back. Some people have this at a company level, corporate social responsibility. This year, we set ourselves a goal at Moo to raise £100,000 in monetary donations or volunteer time. And we basically gave every single employee at Moo 1 day off, 1 paid day off to volunteer for something of their choice. And then we've put on activities that volunteering could be a part of. Like actually today, I just saw someone running past the meeting room with 50 people from our London office are heading up to Yorkshire to do the Yorkshire Three Peaks, which is they all get a day off work. We've put on coaches for them. We've paid for the guides and a first aider to be on hand. So just allowing people to have that time and the framework to get involved in the community or to help the environment and raise money is really, really important. And actually, I looked yesterday, we're at 96,000 out of 100,000 for the year, so it's going really, really well. And then finally, it's just a specific activity that we've been running at Moo for the last couple of years. which is something we've called customer experience liaisons. We have lots of different teams at Moo, and we have what are called crews that work on specific parts of the customer journey in our engineering and product teams. And historically, customer service agents kind of felt a bit disconnected from what was going on in the rest of the organization. We were often the last people to know when something was being changed for our customers, ironically. And sometimes also we had a voice on how we could make things better, but we didn't feel like we was being heard. So we set up this liaisons group, which was about 12 customer service agents, each one connected to a different team or crew within the organization. And what that means is we have a voice for the customer. So the customer service agent is essentially the customer advocate who sits in that group, goes to their weekly meetings, speaks up on behalf of the customer, provides feedback from the customer's perspective into those groups. But they're also like a conduit. So anything that happens within that other team, they take all of that information and bring it back to the contact center to make sure that there's a good two-way flow of information. That's been going for about 2 years. It's made a massive difference to the engagement in the contact center. And I think often just allowing your team, your contact center team, to really feel like they're part of building the solution to the customer's problem, rather than just feeling this kind of drowning feeling of constantly answering the same repetitive phone call. Being part of a wider solution certainly has helped to motivate and engage the contact center team who've been able to take part in this particular initiative. So that's pretty much it for me. I'm just a little note, not like kind of selfless self-promotion. If anyone has any questions, I know that I haven't actually put all of the things I've said on all of these slides, but if people have specific questions or want deeper examples, or if you're in London and you'd like to visit our contact center, I'm more than happy to help out. So you can get me on LinkedIn by just searching for Dan Moros, or you can email me on danm@moo.com. And I'm going to hand back to Charlie in the studio.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. Lots of great information there. I mean, I picked out just 3 points. Personally, I thought that setting correct expectations from the off is a great point. I also thought providing a clear model for career progression is very important in terms of motivating advisors continuously, and asking advisors to set their own team meetings. Team meets, kind of outside of work. I think getting them to design it so you're kind of designing things that they're actually interested in rather than kind of guessing is a great point. So we're going to head over to our top tips and questions from the audience from our chat room, and we're going to put those to our presenters, your questions, and ask them to share their thoughts on your tips. But firstly, we have an opinion sent in by Joe, who says, "We're proud that the people we recruit and work with are in so much demand from the rest of the business," which I think is a nice, it's a nice point. We also have a tip in from Devon, who says, "Something we try to do is when there are changes or uncertainties in the team is hold focus groups to allow agents with mixed experience in the company to discuss any changes along with a training officer or team leader and smooth out any confusion. Then they have the tools to pass this knowledge on to the rest of the team." Do you think this is a good tip, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some similar things. So we use Slack at work, and then obviously we've got multiple locations, but we have certain Slack channels where it's kind of like ask an expert, so people can help each other in that way. And yeah, we've had some kind of I don't know what it's called, like lunch and learns, we call them. So people will come together for lunch, and one person in the team will share some thoughts on how they do things with maybe some less experienced members of the team.
Excellent. We have another opinion now sent in from John, who says, "I agree with Devon. Giving the team opportunity to be involved, have a voice and actively influence what's appropriate is vital to get people to believe in and accept change. The worst outcome is when there is a sense of being done, which will close many off." Would you agree with this, Tamsin?
Absolutely, yeah. No, you want to feel that that you've got a voice, that you're being heard, and I love that idea of you know, having an expert come in and teach others, power hours, you know, lunch and learns. I love that idea. So really, when you feel like you're not being listened to, that you're being kind of commanded at, that's very demotivating. So I really agree with this.
Absolutely. We also have another tip in now from Seema, who says, "Cross-team meetings work well. We cover generic items in a larger group and do small huddles for specific items. This allows agents to share experiences, ideas, and we also do interactive sessions. The team love it. Do you do anything kind of similar to this, Dan?
If that means cross team, i.e. different teams meeting together, then we definitely have a lot of that at Moo. It's one of the hardest things to do, I think, to kind of get that cross-functional collaboration going across the business. I think most departments always tend to think that they're right, which can be quite difficult. But I think the more you get people in a room and get them to understand that everyone has a viewpoint, and the most important thing is to be collaborative about what your goals are and understand that you all have a shared goal, essentially, which is the success of the organization or helping customers. It certainly helps to get people all in a room.
Absolutely. We have a question in now, from Dan, who says, I work for a council. Any ideas for an organization with no budget for prizes and limited resource availability for time off incentives? Actually, I think this will be a great one for you to answer. Another Dan. Dan.
I mean, I would say see what people in the organization have to offer. This is like an odd one, but we have someone who is in the customer service team who's a trained masseuse. So it wouldn't have cost us anything for her to do some kind of while you're working massaging. Obviously clothes on the back probably more than anything. But yeah, I think trying to tap into what you have in the building already, maybe that doesn't cost you necessarily any money, can be useful. And maybe it's about, maybe prizes could be about being more flexible rather than giving time off, for example. Maybe it could be, you can work flexible hours or leave early one day and start early another day to suit your schedule. So I think it's all about getting creative, really. There's no simple solution. Maybe everyone could put money in a pot, everyone puts in a fiver, and then you could use that for the winner, and maybe over the course of the year, everyone would win. Maybe something along those lines.
Yeah, I think kind of your answer really shows the value of getting to know your team. I mean, the masseuse thing's great. I think maybe if you get to know your advisors, and maybe if you know their skills that they have already, you can match incentives to their preferred interests and skill sets. We have another tip in now from Patty, who says, don't forget to start with the basics. Greet each person every day. Ask how they are. Recognizing them as individuals is critical. I guess you would go along with this, Tamsin?
Absolutely. Do I have my thing on?
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that it's it's free to say thank you. It's free to show that to courtesy to others. So that's absolutely, don't forget to start with the basics. I couldn't agree more.
I think also, everyone is just a human being at the end of the day. I think often in workplaces we forget that we're all human after all. And the little things, understanding the person who, not the work person, but the actual person, is massively important. One of my colleagues, when she does a one-on-one with her team, when they meet for the first time as a group, they all sit down and talk about, they all have to say one difficult thing they've been through in their life, which seems like a really weird thing to do, but actually it humanizes that person to the group immediately, and you'll just have a much more, you'll have a lot more affinity and empathy for them, rather than why didn't you hit your productivity numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've got a question now from Mary, who says, we have a highly agile contact center and home workers. Are the weekly one-to-ones all face-to-face or over Skype? That's for you, Dan.
So everyone who works in the office does them one-to-one in the office, but because we've got two offices, so some of our managers report into our contact center director who's in the US, so that will be over an internal kind of video calling system. For our people that work awkward shifts and do work from home, what we do typically is that we'll have a check-in phone call that's probably only half an hour once a week, but then once a month we actually get them to come in, which obviously isn't ideal if your home workers are scattered all around the UK. As much as it can be difficult, I would say Skype is probably the best way, and doing it over video is probably the only way in many ways.
I think that also kind of with the home working system, having cloud already, I assume kind of having those video one-to-ones will become a lot easier in itself. And we've had another tip in now from Hannah, who says, we recruit extra employees over the seasonal periods. Even though there is no space for development, allow your permanent employees to take on the extra responsibility if they want to as pod leaders, and reward the best team with some chocolates, wine and vouchers, which I think is a really nice little tip there from Hannah. And we've also had another one in from Seema, who says, contact centers have evolved. We hold an insight day so as prospective candidates know what we do and how we do it. We do this before they have an interview. I think that links in very well with the point Dan made earlier. Okay, now we'll move on with the webinar. And before we introduce Tamsin again, just a quick question for our chat room. That's, what ideas have you tried for bringing fun competition to agent work life? I mean, we've had similar topics already going on in the chat room, but I think just getting those ideas will be really useful for everyone today. So now I will pass back to Tamsin, and we'll go to you for your presentation. So I'll pass the baton over.
Excellent, thank you.
There we go.
Just let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Excellent. So I do want to speak to you on our top, of course, the right ways to motivate staff to put in more effort. And I'm just going to get right into this. When you consider the contact center, we were talking a lot about the daily life of the daily life of an agent looks like, and you know, they're pacifying clients and dealing with complaints. We talked about noise and distraction in the environment and within the space. We see some balloons in this photo here, and I'm sure that there's free cake for somebody's birthday in the break room. The agents are managing multiple systems and toggling between many screens, and it can be very cumbersome and stressful. There's information overload, and we know that they're juggling their schedules and, of course, their personal life, the distractions in the workplace. And while they're doing all of this, they're handling interactions, sometimes multiple interactions at once from different channels, trying to deliver a perfect customer experience. So it's a really tall order. So with all that reality, you know, what can we do to motivate these agents to make the extra effort? And one thing we can do is to make life on the front lines easier. Smooth sailing. Make the agent work life as easy as possible. So agents spend about 15% of their time searching for relevant KB articles and navigating an average of 3 screens to access customer data. So they're jumping around to different systems, and each of these systems comes with its own interface and navigation style. There's many interfaces and UIs that they're looking at and jumping and toggling between. So it's very time consuming for them to use it, to learn, and for us to train them on all of these systems. And in fact, 92% of contact center leaders believe that their agent-facing applications could be more effective. So I'm almost preaching to the choir here a little bit, perhaps. So this is really a series of tips for the contact center leaders and anyone who has a say in the technology choices for what's the technology that's being run in your contact center. So really my first tip is to look at consolidating interfaces to ease the agent efforts and for a more efficient workflow. If you aim for fewer systems and navigation styles for the agents to jump between, we recommend really a maximum of 2 interfaces if possible. But the benefits of that approach are it's less taxing on the agents. There's a level of consistency that can reduce the training and time spent on technology, and it decreases the agent's stress and anxiety from jumping around to different systems and taking up to 3 screens to look for a piece of information for the caller. So decreasing their stress and anxiety, that can definitely have a positive impact on their motivation. Also, you want to ensure that the technology is modern and intuitive. When you consider today's technology, we're surrounded by all this convenience, and slick interfaces and notification and automation. We gravitate towards this technology because it's easy to use. It's simple. It's easy to use. So you want to really seek innovation that has a simple and intuitive interface for the agents. that brings an agent-centric mindset to the decisions you're making about your technology and your operational decisions, streamlining the number of technology providers as much as possible. And that will really give you some additional benefits of integrated scheduling and reporting and maybe even single sign-on and administration, all within just a few interfaces. So having fewer of those systems. And again, the benefit of that approach is just better synergy between the pieces of a technology and a better agent experience. They're not so frazzled jumping between all of these different systems. And the third tip here that I want to offer is about flexibility, and really who's not attracted to flexibility and having that in our lives, right? So consider flexible scheduling to allow your agents to kind of state their shift preferences and maybe even give them the opportunity to swap shifts, providing them options for bidding on shifts and viewing their schedule online. That flexibility can go a long way to improving their motivation and also giving them a sense of autonomy as well. And I think that brings us to the poll, right, Charlie?
Yes, I'll just take back control quickly and put the poll up for everybody. And our poll question today is in what ways do you encourage agents towards skills development? Call evaluations, coaching with a supervisor, e-learning/knowledge base, regular formal training and self-evaluation, and select all that apply. What are you expecting to see from this poll, Tamsin?
Oh, well, I'm hoping that that everything's checked off. That people are really experimenting with a lot of this. Certainly, I'm going to talk about this in giving access to call evaluations and really supporting with regular coaching, ideally one-on-one with your supervisor. It can be over Skype or over video call or a phone call, but you really need that one-on-one time. I think that's really important. And e-learning and knowledge base. I expect, everyone's got a knowledge base of some type, whether they're low tech or high tech on that end. Even if it's having a stack of knowledge base articles on a tabletop, but having those opportunities for self-paced learning is really important.
Excellent. I'll close the poll now and just check the results for everyone. And yes, it's great to see. We have 83% do call evaluations, 89% coaching with a supervisor, which is great to see so many people doing that. 58% e-learning/knowledge base, 58% regular formal training, and 49% self-evaluation. Was there anything that surprises you in there, Tamsin?
Self-evaluations may be a bit low. I'm surprised about that a bit.
Yeah, I definitely second that. Right, I'll pass back over for you to continue with the presentation.
I think it has to pop up the sharing, does it?
Yes, it should be.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there we go.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Okay, you can see my screen now. You're okay?
Yeah, always good.
Excellent. So thank you for everyone for contributing to that poll. I've got here a series of tips for quality teams, managers, and supervisors, and really want to encourage empowering your agents to be more involved in your QM program. So make it as engaging, your quality monitoring is engaging and as transparent as possible. One way you can do this, I love this idea, it's very simple, is socializing the evaluation forms with your frontline staff, your supervisors, and your agents. This can go a long way to kind of unpacking that or demystifying the black box of the quality program, and really making it transparent. It gets by socializing your forms, your agents become familiar with the expectations of the business, as well as the forms that are being used to rate their interactions, so that they have that transparency and they know what's being expected of them. They know it's being looked, how their interactions are being assessed. If there's a new campaign or new call scripts, ensure that your agents know what the evaluators are looking for. If you've got new forms that you're developing, you can also involve some of your top performing agents or supervisors to be involved in helping to develop that form as well. I really like that idea. Second tip here is just to really, a lot of you are doing this already, give access to your recent evaluated interactions to your agents. I'm surprised the number earlier in my career, when the number of teams that I worked with the agents knew they were being evaluated, they knew they were being recorded, but they never saw the evaluations. It was just a bit of a mystery. So giving them that opportunity to review the evaluated interaction, listen to the call that was evaluated, or the interaction that was evaluated, and see the form and how it was assessed, and maybe even request a review or appeal the score if you're scoring your agents. I love that option, to give them that option to appeal the score or to request a review. Third, I want to say about self-assessment. I love this option for providing, because it really provides more productive coaching sessions. It gives your agent a sense of empowerment by letting them self-assess. I was shocked at the number of agents, again, that I met earlier on that been recording but never actually listened to their own call, a recording of their own call. And when they do, there's a lot of self-reflection, and they can learn a lot from just listening to how they handle that call, and then assessing with the form that's being used to evaluate their call using that same form. So that self-assessment is really important. And my fourth tip here is around coaching. And if you have coaching tools, I encourage you to socialize them and encourage the team to use them and take advantage. So often that there's some great coaching material, but it's kind of off in a folder somewhere and people forget it's there. So you want to make sure that you socialize that. If you have a system, a repository with your coaching tools, you want to make sure that you let people know that that's there, and schedule time, formal time, setting aside regular time for that self-paced learning, or that coaching with your supervisor, setting aside and making that part of their published schedule, so that people don't forget about it, and don't forget to pay attention to that coaching and spend some time doing that. Ideally, the coaching can be completed online, and agents can even sign the coaching electronically, so that when it's completed, you can report on it later on. So there's some fantastic solutions that have these coaching repositories and can automate all of this for you. Also, another tip around coaching is to make it easier for supervisors to send agents coaching to help them improve their skills. So if a supervisor notices that some upsell skill development would be useful to an agent, that they can just automatically send some coaching package off to that agent. Agent can complete that online, and then that's just kind of very smooth process and automated. So if you can, integrating your coaching with your quality process to kind of automate that and make it a lot easier to provide this coaching, self-assessment, and access to the interaction. And next, I want to talk about performance management a little bit. And this is really tips for contact center leaders again, and managers. And we're really recommending that you place the frontline agents at the center of performance and ensure that they're regularly updated on all levels of their performance, on where they stand and the objectives that they need to pay attention to. There's a lot of distraction in the contact centers, and they're very busy on the phones. And you want to make sure that the most key KPIs or statistics that they need to pay attention to, those objectives or targets that they have for their shift, that they are front and center, and that they are as updated as close to real time as possible. In fact, 92% of contact center leaders see value in sharing metrics in real time with their frontline agents. And so you want to include any KPIs that are key to your agents staying on track. This may be the calls in queue, it could be schedule adherence or average hold time, but whatever those key performance indicators are, those KPIs, those metrics, you want to make sure that they're updated as close to real time as possible, and that they're easy to access for the agents. One thing I've seen is a little ticker tape across the top of the agent's desktop of their workstation, and they can see all of the stats that they need to see, and it's always there for them while they're working, and they don't have to toggle between different screens. Another solution I've seen is maybe even a wall board where you've got a large screen in this call center with more group statistics there for them to keep track, and so they know what's happening in the call center. And that's really the pulse of the call center, and so you're really socializing or broadcasting that pulse. If possible, you want to deliver individual, team, and company metrics out to the team. So you could be using a wallboard for company and group level performance metrics. And for individual, this could be delivered through a dashboard or perhaps a ticker. And this is really all part of the modern approach to how contact centers are managing their agent performance. It's real time, it's continuous visibility into the KPIs. It's not reacting after the fact, or having a performance review a week later to find out that your KPIs were off last week. You could have done something about it then if you knew. This way, agents, they can be proactive, they can spot and act on areas of improvement rapidly. So this really leads to higher agent engagement rates and a lot lower turnover, simply because people know where they stand and they know exactly what their target is, and they can focus on that. So just having that information as close to real time as possible and available for them is very, very powerful. It really, again, this approach just really enables the agents to track their own performance and how they're trending, and also how they compare to others, so that how they compare to others on the team, and they can adjust on a day-to-day basis rather than wait for that performance review. And finally, I wanted to talk a little bit, just like Dan did, a little bit about gamification. So there's no harm in a little competition and making it fun. And motivating your employees with performance-based incentives by creating challenges, encouraging and facilitating a bit of competition tied to short-term and long-term performance goals for those key metrics. That can be very powerful. And it can make it fun. So less businessy, but you're still focused on performance and productivity, but makes it a little bit more fun. So using milestone-based achievement badges for recognition. I've walked through these contact centers where they've got, these badges at the top of somebody's their cubicle that shows their recognition for what they've achieved. Over 90% of people, not just agents and call centers, but employees anywhere, they feel that recognition, we all feel that recognition is really important at work, over 90% of us. So those milestone-based achievement badges can really go a long way for injecting some fun into your workplace. Adding themes and games, and I'd love to hear about what kind of themes and games that you've cooked up and you've been playing in your contact centers. You can add themes and games into your incentive programs and make it more fun and inviting for the agents to participate. You could offer peer-to-peer games. There could be points involved, or even agent-to-agent wagering to make their job more fun and interactive. One thing I've seen is a contact center rewards program. I love this idea, and this is where agents can accrue rewards based on their performance, and they get to redeem them based on their achievement level. And one idea I just love is having kind of a rewards store, so the agents can visit the store online. You want to make it a very friendly, easy to navigate interface, and let them pick their own rewards even. It could be gift cards or movie tickets or lunch vouchers, or even first choice for your vacation request, which is a free thing to give away, but to give them that extra incentive. And keeping in mind that not all the prizes have to be monetary. You can be very powerful with your incentives and not have to spend a lot of money. So recognition we talked about as being very important. Favorable shift preferences, seating choice, even priority with the time off. These all carry a lot of weight, so do consider them. They don't all have to be monetary or prizes. I love the idea of offering, if it's a viable option, the option to work from home. It's a good way to recognize and reward top performers, and if it's an option for you to offer that, working from home could be a really good incentive. And finally, I just want to talk about setting fair rules if you're using gamification. So any successful gamification practice is going to include a few attributes. You want regular and dependable updates. So you can't just launch a program or a themed game and then kind of let it flop, let it drop. Not a lot of updates and not have them regular. So you want to make sure that there's you're getting buy-in from the people that you want playing the game by giving them those regular and dependable updates. And you also want to make it fair, have some very clear rules and make it fair. And then finally, ensuring that the variables for them to win, they're almost entirely within the agent's control. So they're either based on the agent's performance or their behavior, and that will also make it fair for the gamification. So I hope you found some useful takeaways in our session today, and I've summarized them here. Some of the best ways to improve agent engagement are easy and they don't cost a thing. We talked a little bit about some of these. So, recognizing employee achievements and giving employees a sense of autonomy, through whether it be through the self-evaluation, letting them self-evaluate, or letting them have access to their evaluations. And also making them feel a part of something bigger and giving them a sense of purpose. And in fact, these things are all things that we all are incentivized by. I do want to leave you with this, though. A recent national employee research survey in the UK, they found an average of 62% of employees in the UK feel unappreciated by their boss. And when asked what could make them feel more valued in the workplace, almost half of them, 48%, said a simple thank you. So I just wanted to say thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I hope you found some useful takeaways.
Great. Thank you for that, Tamsin. I've certainly took a few takeaways for myself in that presentation, such as seek technology, which is simple for the agents to use. Make sure advisors know the criteria that they're being assessed on, which I think is very important. And also provide feedback in real time, so good feedback, because it's always nice to receive good feedback, but to get it straight away so you know exactly which call it was from, because especially if you have 70 or 80 a day, I mean, getting that real quick response is always great to see. So we move back to our top tips and questions from the chat room now, and we have a question from Scott who says, I've inherited a number of long-standing staff who are very demotivated. What is the best way to reinvigorate these staff to be more productive and more passionate about their role? Yeah, I'll go to you for this one, Tamsin.
Yeah, well, different things motivate different people, and it's not always the same free bottle of or box of chocolates. It's going to make everyone happy, right? So my suggestion here is to really get to know what makes them tick. What if you've been working with them, they're long-standing. I don't know if you've been around as long as they have, but and how well you know them. But you want to find out what makes them tick. What is going to motivate them? Is it maybe it could be something as flexible as just a little bit of flexibility, something as simple as that, or it could be something a bit more. So maybe they're looking for career growth, or more mentoring. They may be tapped out on and not have anybody who knows a bit more than they do, and they need some more mentoring. So it could be that. That's what I would suggest. Really finding out what makes them tick and what the key things are going to be to motivate them.
Absolutely, great answer. We've had a tip in from Gemma now, who says we have a brilliant board to recognise the day-to-day brilliance of our team, what they achieve or suggest. Do you think this is a good idea, Dan?
Yeah, we do some similar things actually. We have a social shout-outs board where we put up any nice tweets or posts on social about the team. We get them posted, and we send an email around once a month with copious amounts of Trustpilot and Facebook reviews about the customer service team.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing, especially for wall boards as well. If you're kind of what Dan says and the brilliant board that Gemma suggested, that's a great thing to add to the wall board, so they're not showing the same metrics throughout the day. I've had another tip in from Roshan. Apologies if I pronounce your name wrong. Manager and agents to swap roles for the day. Have you ever heard of this before, Tamsin?
Isn't this like that movie with Lindsay Lohan and 13 again or something? Where they swapped roles, the mom and daughter. I have not heard of this, but I love this. I mean, I love Dan's suggestion of switching staff to a different office in a different continent, and I love that idea. But this is just at a local level within the office, manager and agent. I think that's fantastic. I love that idea, Rosen.
I think also, I mean, not necessarily swapping roles, but actually showing that as a manager, you can still cut it on the floor. Like, that's massively important and will help for your I'm not sure it will time with motivation, but it certainly will help to improve the relationship if that's a problem between manager and agent.
I think also having that understanding of the agent's role will help you to find ways to motivate agents in themselves, I guess, which is also very important. We have
stand in
a
my
tip in...
shoes. Yeah, that's
Sorry,
right.
go on. Yeah.
Come stand in my shoes, walk in my shoes again. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a tip in from Dale now. He says, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Practicing this on a daily basis so it comes natural is huge for motivation. People will accept the feedback better when this is done daily. Do you agree with that tip, Dan?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the first thing is it's a dish best served warm, if that makes sense. I think being timely with your feedback is super important. So doing it often and frequently and in a good timely fashion is important. And I think it's important to be honest, but to be constructive. And I think that again is both ways. Like if people are complaining, if managers have developmental issues with some of their agents, then it should be done constructively and providing ways to help them better to improve. And I think also where you've got a contact center team or your contact center are saying that they're not engaged or they're not motivated or there's a problem or they're complaining, don't just come with a problem, come with a solution. Make suggestions and tell your management what we can do or they can do to make it better.
Yeah, I like that. Come with solutions to problems as well. I think it's a very good point there. We've had a question in from Candice who says, how do you balance the need of having the agents on the phone versus pulling them off of various fun activities? How would you answer this, Tamsin?
Yeah, well, you need to schedule that coaching time, set aside regular time for coaching so that it happens. You need to really schedule and decide when you're going to have those fun activities so that they're not distracting for the agents that need to stay on the phone. So having a separate space where the fun can happen away from the call floor is a good idea as well. And also you can kind of rotate so that everyone gets a chance as well. So you're pulling people off the phone in kind of shifts so that you give everyone a chance. Those are things that I've seen work really well.
Absolutely. We've had another tip in there from Sarah who says, we have wellness sessions at least once a year, such as dealing with stress, wheel of life and relaxation. It's worked really well. Is this something that you've heard of, Dan?
Yeah, we actually have a wellness week at Moo in total, which is across all offices, where we have some meditation sessions and we have lots of different stuff going on in the office. I think, going back, I think motivation is about the individual. So I think there's never going to be a one size fits all. And I think the more you can spread your net wide in terms of the activity you're doing, the more you're going to capture what is needed for each employee. And I think we probably all could do with a bit of de-stressing, relaxation stuff, particularly when you're at work. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, excellent. And just a final tip in then from Matthew, who says, keeping costs in mind, incentivizing staff based on what the company sales does would be a perk and cost the company a lot less. What do you make of this, Tamsin?
Yeah, I think keeping costs in mind, you always want to keep costs down a little bit. And I think that tying together, incentivizing the staff, but also tying it together with what that company does kind of brings it all together nicely. I think that and yeah, I love the idea of having that kind of more holistic, the perks of what you're providing being what the company does. Have you seen that, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some organizations that's pretty hard. I can't imagine them giving you a free contact center software is going to incentivize you much. But yeah, at Moo, for example, we every single employee gets free Moo product. So, I mean, almost unlimited, pretty much unlimited. But kind of we check how much it's costing us, and it's to date been a manageable cost. So I think where it's possible, definitely offering the things that the company does to employees for free or at cost, is really a really nice incentive, a free one.
Absolutely. I think lots of great points there from the chat room and our speakers. So thanks for sending those in throughout the webinar. But we have come to the end of today's session. So in the chat room again, if you could put in 1 or 2 words, what did you like best about the webinar? That would be great for us for future feedback. And also we have a winning tip, which this week comes from Gemma, who says, we have a brilliant board to recognize the day brilliance of our team, what they achieve and suggest, which yeah, I think that and Dan's response to that was a very key takeaway of today. So when you, if you could please complete our survey, which will be, which you can do by filling in our post-webinar form, that would be much appreciated to help us keep improving our webinars. And also, if you go to that survey, if you'd like a product demonstration of the Ring Central nice solution, please tick the box in there. And also, once again, to watch the webinar replay later this afternoon slides, if you want to revisit any of the topics that we've discussed, you can visit www.callcenterhelper.com/recorded-webinars, and which will be later available later on this afternoon. And here's a list of the next webinars in our series, which there's still time to register, and you can find out more about them by following the link on the screen now. So all I have time left to do is thank our speakers for today. Thanks, Dan.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. And thanks for joining us today as well, Tamsin.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. All right, until next week then, thank you for all watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Take care, everyone.